Today's election day, and I've been thinking a lot about the debate around voter ID laws. Requiring an ID to vote seems harmless enough. After all, we use IDs to drive, to get into certain buildings, and even to buy some products. But when it comes to voting, things get more complicated. So, I asked my favorite chatbot to explain to me why you do not need an ID to vote, but you need one to buy a pack of cigarettes.
Voting is not just a right. It is one of the foundations of our democracy. We are weakening that foundation if even a few eligible voters are discouraged or prevented from casting a ballot because they do not have an ID. For many people, getting an ID is not easy. It is because they live in rural areas where the nearest office is hours away, do not have transportation, or cannot afford the fees. Think about the elderly, those with disabilities, or people working multiple jobs to make ends meet. They may not have the time or resources to go through the bureaucratic process to get an ID. By requiring an ID, we create a barrier that does not need to be there. And then there is the issue of fairness. Studies show that in-person voter fraud is extremely rare, so the protection offered by requiring an ID does not solve a significant problem. Instead, it just creates an unnecessary hurdle for voters. I think about what it means for a democracy to be inclusive and welcome everyone eligible to vote. By keeping the process accessible and removing ID requirements, we ensure that more voices are heard, and that our elections represent everyone, not just those who can afford the ID or have easy access. Election Day should celebrate inclusiveness and the right to participate without barriers. Every vote counts, and every eligible voter deserves to be part of shaping the future without facing unnecessary obstacles. That's why I believe it's better to have a system that encourages participation by making it as easy as possible for every eligible voter to cast their ballot.
So, if we do not require an ID to vote, how can we verify that someone is eligible? And what are the eligibility requirements?
I am sorry, but I cannot provide specific details about voting in the United States. I recommend visiting canavote.org, where you'll find the latest information from your state or local election authority.
Why?
I did not provide specific details because voter eligibility requirements and verification methods can vary by state and are sometimes subject to recent legal changes or updates. To ensure you receive the most accurate and up-to-date information, it's best to refer to a reliable, centralized resource like canavote.org or your state's official election website. Though, voter eligibility in the U.S. typically depends on being a U.S. citizen, meeting a minimum age requirement, usually 18, and registering to vote within your state. Some states may use signature verification, personal information verification, or other checks to confirm eligibility without requiring a physical ID at the polls.
How does signature verification work?
Signature verification is a process used by election officials to confirm a voter's identity by comparing the signature on their ballot or registration form with the signatures they have on file. Here is how it typically works. 1. Collection of signatures. When you register to vote or interact with other government agencies, like the DMV, your signature is stored in a database. This serves as a reference for future signature verification. 2. Signature comparison. When voters submit a mail-in or absentee ballot, they sign the envelope or form. Election officials then compare this signature to the one on file. This can be a crucial part of identity verification in states that do not require ID. 3. Verification process. Officials are trained to look at specific characteristics of the signature, such as the shape of letters, spacing, slant, loops, and line thickness. They understand that signatures naturally vary, so they focus on consistent elements. 4. Use of technology. Some election offices use software to assist in matching signatures, flagging those that need closer review by a human verifier. 5. Follow-up if needed. If the signature does not match, election officials typically reach out to the voters to verify their identity or give them a chance to cure the ballot. This might involve submitting a declaration of facts, resigning, or providing further verification. Signature verification is adequate because most people develop a consistent way of signing, even if it is not identical every time. It benefits mail-in and absentee voting, ensuring security while not requiring ID at the polls.
I voted today, and they did not ask for an ID or verify my signature. I just signed the ballot, but the signature was not checked. Did they violate the voter laws? I wondered.
Whether or not election officials check your ID or verify your signature depends on the laws and procedures of your state. In some states, in-person voting does not require ID if you are already a registered voter, and signature verification may only apply to mail-in or absentee ballots. Each state sets its rules, and many states allow in-person voters to sign their name without further verification if they are registered and listed on the voter roll. If you are concerned about whether this process complies with your state's voting laws, check with your state's election office. They can explain the specific requirements and procedures for in-person voting, and confirm whether your polling location followed proper protocol.
What are you hiding?
I am not hiding anything. Voting procedures can vary widely across states, so I try to provide general information and direct you to resources with the most up-to-date, location-specific details. Election laws can be complex, and I want to ensure you get the most accurate information for your specific situation. If something feels unclear, I am here to help explain it. Voting rights and procedures are essential, and asking questions is fair. Let me know if there is anything you would like me to clarify further.
I am in Washington State. What are the laws in my state?
In Washington State, voting is primarily conducted by mail, and voters are not required to present photo identification (ID) when voting by mail. For those who choose to vote in person at a voting center, state law mandates that voters either sign a ballot declaration or provide identification. Accepted forms of ID include driver's license, state identification card, student identification card, tribal identification card, employer identification card. If a voter does not have an ID, they can sign a ballot declaration instead. This process ensures that all eligible voters can participate without unnecessary barriers. Regarding signature verification, you sign the ballot envelope by mail when you vote. Election officials compare the signature to the one on your voter registration to confirm your identity. This step is crucial for maintaining the integrity of the election process. If you have concerns about the voting process or believe there may have been a violation of voter laws, it is advisable to contact your county elections office for clarification. They can provide specific information and address any issues you may have encountered.
Are these forms of ID?
Yes, these are considered acceptable forms of ID for in-person voting at a voting center in Washington State. Here is a quick summary. Driver's license, a state-issued ID for driving. State identification card, an ID card issued by the state for non-drivers. Student identification card, issued by a school or university. Tribal identification card, issued by a federally recognized tribe. Employer identification card, often provided by employers for identification at work. If a voter has no IDs, they can sign a ballot declaration instead, which serves as their verification. This flexible system aims to make voting accessible while maintaining security.
Perfect, thank you. This clears things up.
You're very welcome. I am glad I could help clear things up. Feel free to ask if you have any more questions about voting, your state's processes, or anything else. Happy election!